Welcome to the session on financial sustainability, well-being for society. I'm Ming, and today we'll be looking at what makes financial sustainability in general and more specifically for you. These are tough times. Financial sustainability is about financial resilience, riding through the hard times, having enough for you and your family. That also means looking ahead each time you make a financial decision, seeing ahead how your decisions pan out at a future time. Because when you do a projection and then you look back on your decision, it gives you a certain perspective and it shows you what is lasting value that you can build upon. It also means looking around you to see what impact your decisions have on others. A lot of times, what we do affects our neighbors, and the outcome and results on our neighbors sometimes return to influence us. Sometimes we prosper as a community. A good example is the green farming or sustainable farming practices that are being introduced and encouraged, where farming communities, they benefit as much as the customers that they serve. We need to look long term, especially now, to get over this present crisis. Even if we are just getting by, this will help us to see what has value and what does not. Hopefully, this talk will give you some appreciation of what true value is as a guide to how we should spend more of our money and time. Stripped of our usual busy lives, this crisis has brought back some of our more fundamental forgotten values. If the many crises have taught us anything, it is that we are all interconnected and we must take care of each other for the well-being of society. As tragic as the Corona-19 virus pandemic is, we have been here before. The 2008 crisis was brought on also by a virus, a different kind of virus, a thought virus, which was the derivatives that investors became enamored by and were chasing around the globe. It showed how global events can land in our own backyard, how interdependent we are as consumers, wage earners, investors, government officials, and as a human species. We have recovered to fight another day, each time promising a once-in-a-generation remaking of society, a push towards enlightened self-interest and self-learning. However, in between crises, inertia builds up, complacency builds up, and we get caught up in our own busy lives again. And a lot of the self-learning stops and a lot of the lessons are forgotten. Certain words like sustainability and well-being take on greater meaning with each iteration, with each crisis, showing how intertwined our lives are with the governments and organizations globally. In short, there are no borders or distances that divide us as a civilizations anymore, although in our minds, we still have those barriers in place, and therefore we are surprised when global events affect us. Even before the pandemic, advances in artificial intelligence, robotics, cloud computing, and biotechnology was changing how we live, work, communicate, and even fall in love, right? As a swipe left, swipe right. In supply chains, computers are starting to take over the most human aspects of the work, the negotiations between shippers, forwarders, and customers. Imagine how much of the work done to take your order online and deliver packages to you, or even your food orders. How much of that order taking and processing of the order is now human based or needs the intervention of a human. Right? Computers are indispensable assistants in also all aspects of research, from medicine, biotechnology to engineering. Computers have replaced large sections of manpower in the construction and civil engineering industries. These are but a few examples. I'm sure you can think of some in your own industry. Are these symptoms that our systems and technology are out of date? Or have you reached some sort of tipping point where change is inevitable? And what is awaiting for us on the other side? Before COVID-19, we believed that all companies will optimize for sustainability. We had just enough hospital beds and equipment to break even and make a profit with higher patient turnover. More of our restaurants were going the McDonald's or fast food way. So this was what sustainability meant to us pre-crisis. And this chart shows how we typically measure efficiency of travel in many cities. And we still do. We managed to go faster while cramming as many people as possible into carriages, who then entered cramped offices. This seems a bit counterintuitive to us right now. Plant and animal growth are supplemented by pesticides, antibiotics, and hormones that further increase human environmental exposures. So how has all this worked out during this pandemic? With the forced work from home orders and protracted isolation, office workers must work online. Students learn from home while teachers teach from home. There is the inevitable steep falls in output, widespread business failures, higher unemployment, and a pile-up of fiscal debt. However, something fundamental has stayed. So we can't say that it's all gloom and doom. A salesman still needs to climb stairs to deliver or get an order. But now on a computer, at a click of a button, a salesman can receive the order and start planning the fulfillment. Any of us now can hold a meeting with a customer or with our colleagues at a click of a button. We are defying gravity and distance and geographical distance. We are now working at the speed of light, or the speed of thought, a phrase that Bill Gates coined for the internet in 1999. This phrase is apt for us now, working at the speed of thought, because sometimes I wonder if we are working the computers or whether the computers are working us. So some companies in this period are coming to the forefront, becoming more visible. The ones that you encounter every day now, like the first among equals. As we look at working from the old way of travel, transportation, with all the delays and jams, and now we're looking at telecommuting, where people work on computers and can be anywhere. Certain businesses have thrived. Businesses like pharmaceuticals and other essential services, surveillance, electronic and electrical engineering, food safety, logistics, maintenance, and so on. So seeing these successful examples, what have we learned? The basics or the basic needs of society has not changed. We still need to get work done. We still need to communicate with each other. But right now we are doing it in a much more direct way, and also in a way where there's mutual benefit to both parties. I will explain more in the next slide. We have learned that companies with sustainable business models, by sustainable we mean risk adjusted, They are businesses that typically take into account present and future risks, such as climate change challenges, changing customer attitudes towards their products and services, the obsolescence of technologies, and adoption of new technologies. These companies manage their risks actively, and so they have a resulting lower risk and are becoming more valued by consumers because now we start to share the same values, whether it's being environmentally friendly or using renewable energies or having more corporate social responsibility, similar values with customers. So yes, your teenage son or daughter is right. As such, these new normal businesses have improved commercial returns. Let's look at some of their common characteristics. They are high tech, high touch, like the online sales platforms that are booming. High tech, they are on a technological platform that automates most of the processes and always available every day of the year. And high touch, they provide a coverage and a convenience to their customers that's superior to a lot of, should I say, brick and mortar shops. Innovative businesses are also much more competitive. These are businesses that have turned the traditional business models on the head. Think of doorstep delivery or door-to-door delivery of food items. They have created a whole new market segment for retail and food and beverage. High value social and human capital, where we place more value or we realize more value out of the people that we work with, the people that we bring into companies, the people that we train, the people that we retain in the company, so that they have expertise plus experience. High value social and human capital promotes resilience. Humans are social creatures. That's one. Information is also social. Data is social. Data has a social life. When you receive a report, reading it in isolation doesn't make sense. Producing information in isolation doesn't make sense. All information is best consumed and produced in the context, in a social context. Because people add meaning to work, people add meaning to data. Right. So, social and human capital, we see a bigger investment in them. Right. For example, an example I raised earlier in sustainable farming, where the farmers benefit as much as the customers in the practices they use. The land is more renewable. The families are more sustainable. So the food that's produced is more predictable, more guaranteed, and of a certain quality that's good for everybody. Investing in training and hiring better staff also makes the company more flexible and agile. When you treat the staff like a community, a self-supporting community where everybody grows together, and you train them and keep bringing their skills up to date, you have a team that's more flexible and agile, more ready to take on unexpected challenges. And these companies often value the retention of staff that promotes business continuity and stability. So taken together, we are now starting to see what future businesses will be like. Businesses will do more with less. Technology allows them to do that. Better trained staff allows them to do that. But having better networks with partners, with the vendors, with the customers allows them to do that. This means cost cutting for efficiency. For example, using fewer resources such as carbon or water or renewables will have a direct impact on cost. This will require the adoption of new technologies and a renewed investment in the creativity and commitment of people. Brookfield Asset Management found that 60% of their market capitalization was in their human capital, their staff being worth twice the value of the cost of replacing them. Companies that practice long-term thinking, invest in innovations, and continuously update their business models, technology, and processes. These companies will give higher returns because they build stronger stakeholder relationships. Right? When you have a long-term plan, you look after your fundamentals. When you have very strong fundamentals, you build stronger long-term stakeholder relationships. If you have very short-term planning, you do not build a strong foundation, you will attract stakeholders who want short-term gains. And these companies, because they have long-term relationships with their stakeholders, they have improved reputations, and they have better access to and retention of staff. And who doesn't want to work for a long-lasting companies or companies that built to last? A Morgan Stanley's recent research looked at data from nearly 11,000 mutual and exchange-traded funds between 2004 and 2018. It found that investing sustainably did not decrease financial returns compared to traditional funds, but offered a lower risk. So same returns, but lower risk. Environmental and social risks are also material financial risks. In an ever more complicated and interconnected world, an integrated approach, a holistic approach to risk management is essential because we don't know where the next crisis will come from. This is clear from the growing insurance claims because of damage caused by extreme weather. US $56 billion of insured losses were incurred from natural catastrophes and man-made disasters in 2019, making this the most expensive year on record. This is a trend set to get worse as the consequence of climate change intensifies. And this is just one risk factor among many. When we see the world as an interconnected whole, we begin to see that sustainability and growth and profit are all interconnected. That means the sustainability of the business and their customers are co-dependent. This gives us a clue about what to look for in future investments and where you might be considering your future employment. This chart is to show you that some funders, an increasing number of funders, require the development of a plan for financial sustainability from the borrower as a condition of their grants. Hence, companies that have a sustainability plan already developed will be a step ahead of others and have access not only to more markets, but also more funding resources. Okay. So where do all these factors bring us? Whether this will be accelerated by the pandemic or not, industries are changing. New services are emerging. Some may be transitional, some may be permanent and be with us for a very long time. We really must think long term, like 5 or 10 years into the future, and put ourselves on the right track for that long-term travel. We really must think long-term. It is okay to want short-term gains and looking for long term helps us to see the real value of things. It takes time to know who our real friends are, for example. So in the same way, looking further into the future gives us a better perspective how to weigh what is worthwhile and what is not in our lives right now. This affects how we redefine personal financial sustainability, which includes our own employability, the goods and services we partake in, where we want to upgrade ourselves in terms of skills and knowledge, and the businesses and networks we want to join, and even how we judge the performance of our investments. So how do we future-proof ourselves? Employability. Things might get a bit austere for a while. Conservative. This may translate to lower wages, longer hours, heavier workloads, and so on. But there will be a strong demand for highly motivated and committed staff who are adaptable and flexible to the company's needs and those of their customers. Look for companies that think longer term and put yourself as part of their future rather than just their present. Be expected to contribute creatively, to put more of yourself into your job. That means digging deep into yourself and committing 120% to the success of the companies. And much better if you find a company that shares the same values as you, right? Whether this is being eco-friendly or having a high customer care program and so on. Education. Embark on a learning journey. Be voracious in picking up new skills and knowledge. A lot of it is available online, right? But please be directed. If you are in logistics, retail, any industry, learn about the computer systems that drive the business nowadays. Find innovative ways to learn, whether it is online, taking up internships, get a friend to show you something about the business. Know terms like IR 4.0 and what they mean. For yourself, learn stress management techniques or customer relationship management or computer skills or even simple accounting. Learning is what we should always be doing while life goes on. Next, go green. Regardless of situation, adopt a healthy lifestyle in body, mind, and spirit. Tough times call for tough minds and bodies. Going green is also a mindset. It has come to mean the new age businesses like online retail, online education, the gig economy, where part-time job or leisure work becomes the norm, right? That everybody gets a piece of work and there's enough pieces to go around. And when you as a worker get enough pieces coming in, it becomes a reasonable job. Crowdsourcing, social enterprises built not for profit, but for the benefit of the community, and so on. So all these takes a different perspective, a different mindset, a different way of looking at things. Right? And all this can be clumped under the word green. It's a new lifestyle. It's a green lifestyle. So observe how your industry is changing and observe how the lives of the young people around you has changed. Ask yourself what is going or will go in a few years. What is then left is the real value that we should focus on. And I'll add one more, financial literacy. An understanding of economics and finance has provided me with a valuable foundation for lifelong learning and can be applied to real-world problems. I believe this may benefit most of us in understanding our choices in the coming years as well. Almost every decision we make involves money and can become an asset or liability, literally. So this is an important part of us becoming financially independent in life. We each need a plan that outlines our long-term goals and resources to achieve them. So we can't go with the flow anymore. It's not about being pushed from one vehicle and going to another vehicle. We really have to make our decisions. We know the basics. We need to keep a watchful eye over our cash flow. Cash is king, right? To ensure our outgoing expenses aren't greater than our incoming funds. Understood. This is easy in normal times, but how do we invest in our future, in learning new skills and knowledge when the world is changing quickly and may have already impacted our livelihoods? Now more than ever, you will need to develop a plan that outlines your long-term goals and resources you need to achieve them. For example, when the job market is weak, you can still be more selective if you have a plan in place. A plan that gets you the skill sets and, more importantly, the future mindset for the opportunities that you see opening up. Then what you do becomes a stepping stone. It also becomes a learning experience. Everything you do from then on then contributes to that eventual goal. There are more resources available for the learner today online through your networks. You may have angels among your personal networks that can guide you. And only if you have clear plans and see things in the right perspective and can articulate where you want to be and why you should be there. This is where long-term planning comes in. This might sound overly simplistic, but there are serious implications. Today, we have shared some guidelines on where your money is best directed, whether it is employment, education, or investment. So I will leave you with some personal advice. Number one, always invest in yourself. The best advice at any time, and especially now, is to invest in yourself. And I'll leave you with 4 pieces of advice that have served me well in this aspect. Number one, always think long-term. Resist social and peer pressures. Following rules of thumb dogmatically is unreliable. But always stretching your thoughts into the future and using that as a background of your current decisions. Right? Like even if you spend $1 now and then you think, how much is that dollar worth in 10 years' time? That dollar with inflation will probably be worth maybe 97 cents. Right? So even that $1 you spend now, the value becomes clearer when you see it as compared to the backdrop or contrasted to the backdrop of a time in future. Right? So will you spend $1 on this now? Or will you save the dollar and get 97 cents with inflation, or you put in an investment somewhere, or you buy something that appreciates in value that gives you maybe $1.10 in the same period of time? That's an example of valuation, some sort of valuation. Next, do not decide in isolation. Don't make decisions in isolation. We are not isolated. We are not islands. They say no man is an island. There's no way you can be an island, right? And also, do not decide in isolation. Manage the information overload. We are getting a lot of information now from various sources, a lot of rumors, a lot of even conspiracy. So good advice is hard to come by. But avoid advertising triggers, for example. Google throws up all these ads to you based on what you have searched in the past. So always tempting you, always guiding you, always channeling you into a certain direction or a certain impulse. Right? It could have started as an impulse, but now you're being channeled and accelerated towards who knows where with your impulse. So you need to balance excitement and impulses by taking risk into account, understanding what risk is. Educate yourself on risk, how risk is mitigated, how risk is measured. This may be a bit much to ask for from everybody, but a basic financial literacy knowledge of, well, basically risk. We do risk calculations every day, right? Do we walk? Do we drive? Do we take this route where there's a risk of a jam? Or do we take this one that's longer but there's no jam? You know, do we eat this food which I like but it turns my stomach, and this one that I like less? Should I take the risk for the minute satisfaction that I get versus having a bland meal? So we do risk management all the time, and it's good to apply that to our more important decisions. And basically ask fundamental questions like where the value is coming from. When you're buying something, ask what is the value of that. If you invest in something, ask where is the value coming from. The focus on value is very important, because now more than ever, value is the only thing that will get us through. That's not perishable. The value is what's left behind when everything has gone with time. We all need better data on the fewer things that matter more to us. And we should focus on that and not get distracted. There is increasing evidence that consumers lack financial literacies in order to get to that data that they need. So please, please, please educate yourself. Seek professional advice, whether it is a professional in the investment industry, insurance industry, savings industry, a bank, a coach, a counselor. Do not be overconfident. There is an increasing evidence also that because of the lack of financial literacy, people fail to realize they have certain biasness and motivations that make them believe something more than others. So please seek the advice of professionals or professional coaches. And finally, stay focused. Once you have your plan, stick to the plan. Don't over borrow it. You know, you wanted to borrow 20,000 and the bank offers you 40,000 at even a better rate, a longer time period. Stick to your plan. You can always come back another day, or under save. You know, you have a savings plan and say, all right, today I'll treat myself a bit more on this, I'll treat myself more on that. So you start failing to meet the milestones, then a plan is not a plan. So be proactive also. When you see something that is attractive but may not be to your benefit, like opting out of teaser rate offers or certain promotional offers, be proactive and opt out and say no. You know, don't go with the flow and say, oh, all right, okay, he's doing it, she's doing it, they are doing it, why don't I do it? So stay focused to your plan. So to reiterate, think long term, do not decide in isolation, seek professional advice, and stay focused. And also stay safe. Thank you very much.